The Transformers are back in one of the most anticipated films of the year. This time, we're heading back to the 80s to follow Bumblebee as he finds refuge in a California town. But the quiet doesn't last for long.
Bumblebee, there is only one way to end this war. You must protect Earth and its people. Take it down!
My backbeat! Oh, it's so good. The film is directed by Travis Knight. He joins us now. Travis, thanks so much for being here.
My pleasure.
So I saw the film in the front row. It's 3D, and my husband turned to me at one point and said I was just like that the whole time. It's so good, but
thank you, I appreciate that.
This has been a long time coming for you, about 30 years in the making. So tell me about your connection to the Transformers when you were younger.
Well, I was a child of the 80s, so I grew up knowing and loving these characters. I watched the cartoons.
Me too.
High five.
Thank you.
I watched the cartoons. I read the comic books. I played with the toys. I'd be down in my parents' basement with my little Bumblebee action figure, telling little stories. And so it's a bit of a trip to now be here 30 years later and tell another story about Bumblebee, but now being able to share it with the world. And so it's a dream come true, really. This
isn't your typical type of film. This isn't what we know you for at all. No. So why the move to live action, and why the move to something that is so kind of rough and tumble at points? I mean, it's very heartwarming, but it's got a lot of action to it.
Yeah, no, it's a very different kind of film for me. I've done kind of essentially these bespoke, artisanal, indie animation films for the last 15 years, and this is big, live action franchise filmmaking. So it's a different kind of story for me. But that's also one of the exciting things is to tell different kind of stories in different ways. And I wanted to give it, all the things that people come to expect, the best parts of Transformers, which is, action and spectacle and robot fights and speed chases and all that. But I also wanted to give it a strong beating heart at the core. It really is evocative of those great Amblin, coming-of-age films of the 80s. And I think it has a sweet balance of those two things.
And the heart is so present. I mean, I'm a mom, and you want to cradle Bumblebee. You love him.
Yeah.
Haley Steinfeld's character, Charlie, and Bumblebee have a very strong connection. So why was it so important for you to bring that emotion?
Well, I think, for me, the best cinematic experiences are when I emotionally invest in the story that I'm watching, the characters that I'm watching. Those are the kind of stories that I've always loved. Those are the kind of stories that stick to my ribs. Otherwise, you're just sitting there and, the spectacle's washing over you and you leave and it doesn't mean anything. But I really wanted this film to have emotion, to have heart, and for us to really care about these characters. And, the response that we're getting from the audience has been tremendous. They really, fall in love with these characters.
The story feels very progressive in that your main character, Charlie, is a woman, and she's just there. She's not sexualized in any way. She's just there and proud to be a woman and doing her thing. And then her love interest is a person of color. And I think for many people watching this is a welcome change for the franchise. Was that intentional on your part?
Yeah, it is. I wish those things weren't even notable. I wish that stuff was completely unremarkable. But the fact is that it still is kind of challenging to make these kind of films with these kinds of characters within them. And it was very important for me that we had that element in this movie, just to tell a different kind of a story in this franchise. And I'm very pleased that people are responding so positively to it.
Yeah, I think you're bringing in a whole new group of people to love the Transformers as much as you did growing up. Can we talk a little bit about the 80s references in the film?
Do it.
I mean, the 80s they're loud and proud. So many different references. How much fun was that for you?
It was great. Growing up in the 80s, it was like a walk down memory lane to go back and take, for me, the best parts of it, all the music and the fashion and the art and the design. It was, so many of the members of the crew, they also grew up in the 80s, and so we were kind of tapping into our childhoods. And to give the film a lot of tone and texture by, taking elements of that era and weaving them into the movie, it was just a ton of fun. It really was, reliving my childhood.
Oh, it's fun to watch, too. Steven Spielberg was executive producer of the movie, so what role does he play?
The original idea for this film was Steven's. And, Steven, for me, is, he's been the most influential filmmaker in my life. He's essentially the person that inspired me to become a filmmaker. The first movie that actually deeply emotionally affected me was E.T. I saw it in the movie theater when I was 8 with my mom. And this film kind of tries to pay tribute to that experience on some level. So it has, the wonder, the laughter, the tears, and it's got a really strong beating heart underneath it all.
Well, I can tell you both myself and my producer, after we saw the film, we both said E.T. That's what it feels like. So you did your job.
Nice.
Yeah, congratulations. It's a really great film.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Bumblebee hits theaters on Friday.